Donald Trump. The book, Confidence Man, reveals exciting facts about the former U.S. president's life in the White House. Haberman writes in her book that Trump, during a meeting with then Chief of Staff John Kelly and then White House advisor Don McGahn, was about to tweet out the firing of his daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared Kushner, both of whom were senior White House advisors. Kelly intervened, advising Trump to speak to Ivanka and Kushner first before tweeting out the tweet. Trump never spoke to them, and both remained White House aides until the end of his presidency. The book also reveals that Trump often spoke about his son-in-law. He once commented that Kushner sounded like a baby after hearing a public speech he gave in 2017. Trump has denied wanting to fire Ivanka and her husband, calling it a fantasy. "It never crossed my mind." Trump considered bombing Mexican drug labs. Haberman writes that Trump repeatedly raised the possibility of bombing Mexican drug labs, a suggestion that surprised former Defense Secretary Mark Esper. The idea came from a conversation Trump had with Brett Giroir, the public health official and admiral in the U.S. Public Health Service. Giroir entered the Oval Office in uniform, as is the custom for public health officials, and told Trump that Mexico's illegal drug labs should be addressed as a primary target to stop illegal substances from crossing the border. Trump mistakenly thought Giroir held a military position and suggested bombing the labs, and the White House asked Giroir to drop his uniform. Trump feared he'd die from COVID-19. When Trump contracted COVID-19 in October 2020, his health was worsening in the White House and he feared he would die. His deputy chief of staff, Tony Ornato, once warned him that if his health deteriorated further, Trump would have to take steps to keep the government going. Trump's fear persisted despite his many attempts to downplay the pandemic, as he feared the virus would damage his image and political credentials. Haberman writes that he once asked aides around him to remove their masks and advised then New York Governor Andrew Cuomo not to talk about the virus on television. "Don't make a big deal out of it," Trump told Cuomo, according to the book. "It's going to cause a problem." Trump asked Giuliani to do anything to change 2020 election results. When it became clear that Trump was losing the 2020 election to Joe Biden, he called former New York City mayor and personal lawyer Rudy Giuliani. "Okay, Rudy, you're in charge. Go ahead, do whatever you want." "I don't care," Trump told him after other lawyers refused to do his bidding in his bid to overturn the election results. "My lawyers are terrible," he told Giuliani, according to the book, and Trump frequently berated White House counsel Pat Cipollone. The book reveals that Trump was fascinated by conspiracy theories at the time and consulted with lawyers who his advisors felt were misleading. Trump reveals tax break on plane. On a plane during his 2016 campaign, his campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, and his press secretary, Hope Hicks, asked Trump to weigh in on his refusal to release his tax returns, an issue they had seen as a problem during the campaign. Trump responded by leaning back before suddenly having a thought. "Well, you know my tax returns are under audit. I always review them," Haberman wrote. "So what I mean is, well, I can just say, I'll release them when I'm not under audit. Because I'm never under audit." No U.S. president since Richard Nixon has voluntarily released his tax returns, and a 2020 New York Times investigation found that Trump paid $750 in federal income taxes in his first year in office. Trump flushed documents down White House toilet. While Trump was in office, White House staffers periodically discovered that the toilet was clogged with printed paper they believed to be documents. He was said to have been shredding documents, which is against the Presidential Records Act, which states that any documents issued or received by the President are the property of the U.S. government and must be handled by the National Archives once his term ends. The details come amid widespread concerns raised by the National Archives that documents from the Trump White House were lost. Trump is also facing a criminal investigation by the Justice Department over government documents he kept at his Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida after leaving office. Trump thought some officials were waiters. Haberman writes that Trump, during a meeting in Congress shortly after his 2017 inauguration, looked at a racially diverse group of Democratic Party officials and asked them to bring him appetizers, believing them to be waiters. Haberman also documents a history of homophobic remarks that Trump is believed to have made.